What's up, y'all? Hope everything's going good for you. Just got out of classes for basically pretty much was my last day of school today, or last day of classes, I guess I should say. Not technically, because finals are next week, but pretty much most of my classes are done now. I just have one class tomorrow. It's honestly kind of surreal, man. Like, already done with just about done with my second semester now. It's like crazy, because I would have never just like imagined myself where I'm at. Not that I'm doing anything like crazy special, but like it's just weird, and like it's kind of sad how quick it's already going, you know? Like, it doesn't feel like much has happened, but it's just crazy. Crazy, man. I think it's like one of the wildest things how like when we get older, it seems like life just goes so fast. It's insane. It's literally insane. It blows my mind. But anyways, I wanted to kind of since it's a little bit of a rainy day, just thought of this little topic. Is like, I wonder what everybody thinks is like a safe, when it is safe to ride. Like what is an acceptable level of like weather to where you can still ride. So I mean, personally, I've rode in some pretty nasty conditions as far as like rain goes. Like rain, I've rode in a lot of rain, actually pretty much pouring down rain I have rode in, which is not fun. First off, let's say that it's not fun at all, because I'm getting soaking wet. Just my clothes are drenched when I get home, my gloves and everything, so that's not fun in the slightest. It's also like pouring down rain at that point, like it just becomes such a hazard that like I don't really think it's worth it unless it's like absolutely necessary. So I'll do it like if I have if I take my bike somewhere. If I take my bike somewhere and that's so weird. They like looked at me from so far away and told me to rev it. I don't know if that'll be visible in the video, but if I take my bike somewhere like overnight and I have to ride it home, then I will. Obviously, because it's really my only way home. It would have to be really bad out for me to like say, hey, I'm gonna wait, you know. But if I have something important to get to, I'm riding in the rain, you know. And that's actually when I had rode in the rain. That's when I had rode in the rain, or in the past. It was I had like stayed the night at a buddy's house and had to go the next morning, and it was like, it was kind of annoying because it was like actually pretty decent out when I left, but then like halfway through when I was getting home, it just started pouring, and it sucked. And a few times like I've just said screw it and taken the bike to class, and then it ended up like the weather got worse than what it said it was going to be, and I ended up riding in the rain on the way home. So like today, it was just like chances of light rain, and so it was wet out this morning, and I was getting rained on just barely. It was almost like a sprinkle. I wouldn't even call it a rain at that point. So I'm fine with riding in that, really. Like because when I got to class, it wasn't like I was wet, you know. I wasn't like wet. It was just like sprinkled. It's just as if you'd like been walking outside for a couple minutes in like light rain. So it's not, when it's like that, I'm fine with it. It's just even then, when the road is just like barely wet, it's still scary riding though, in my opinion. Like I take turns so cautiously. And I'm on a small bike, you know, like those bigger bikes, you know, I talk about this a lot, you know, those bigger bikes that have more power to the rear tire, it's like, it's scary because now they do have more rubber on the road, which, you know, in turn does give them more traction, but it's not that much rubber. The tires aren't that much bigger to where it makes like a meaningful difference. At least I wouldn't think so. But you know, making small movements on the rain is very, like, it's so scary, because like if you do one thing wrong or you throttle just a tad bit too much, that rear tire is gonna just go, and it's so scary. But like a day like today, when I said it's not like raining super hard, I'm pretty fine with it, because like it's so much more convenient for me to take my bike to school. Rather, it's so inconvenient for me to have to take my car. So that's why I choose to ride in the rain if it's not bad. And then so like as far as temperature goes, I've really only rode, my rule throughout the winter was if it was above 32 I could ride. And I just kind of got that from reading a little blog that I saw, and like some guy basically he said it's a good rule of thumb to follow that you shouldn't ride when it's below freezing, because then that's when black ice can form. And from my experience, black ice is not fun, man. It's not fun in it's not fun in cars, and it's even worse on motorcycles. That black ice is actually what caused my very, very, very close call where I almost dumped my bike. So when temperature, I didn't often ride in like 33-degree weather, but I did when I had to. I say when I had to, but by that I just mean like I didn't want to take my car and have to pay for parking or try and find a parking spot. But I did take my car often throughout the winter. So that's kind of a little iffy there when I say above 32 I'm gonna ride. Plus, I mean, if it was above 32 and it was like raining or something, or like still snowing, because it can snow above 32, but it, you know, it just doesn't stick. If it was snowing, I wasn't riding the bike, you know. But yeah, normally if it was above, or if it was under 32, I just didn't ride, didn't bother. So I don't feel like I don't have to talk about snow. If it's snowing and you're riding your motorcycle on the street, I really don't know what you're on. You might not really need a motorcycle in the first place if you're doing that, because like snow is just impossible. Like it's hard on cars. I wouldn't even want to try and do it on my bike, you know. I don't even know if you could like make turns properly there. You'd have to go to like 3 miles an hour. You probably would have to like put your foot down every time you turn. Rain is kind of an iffy spot for me, because I do ride in it as long as it's not like to the point where it's a really big inconvenience, like I'm getting soaked, you know. Especially now that I have a GoPro, when I have this media mod on it, it's not technically fully waterproof, and I've been seeing some water these couple times I've rode in the rain. I've seen some water seep in, not to a point where it damaged the GoPro at all, but like they did disclaim in that it's not technically fully waterproof when you have this media mod on. So that would be an inconvenience of riding in the rain. But if it's not too big of an inconvenience, I'm usually riding. I'm not too worried about the safety aspect of it, because like I said, you know, if it's not raining a ton, it usually is pretty easy to maneuver your wet areas. You just kind of have to be very careful. I just take the power down by about 40%, maybe it'd be a number I'd say. Take the power down, slow down the turns. You know, I don't have any like specific like technique or anything that you can use when you're riding in the, you know, on wet surfaces. You just have to be more careful. You have to slow down, not go as fast. You know, don't take sharp corners. I mean, the corners is so self-explanatory. I can't understand why anyone would ever do that. I mean, maybe they think their bike can take it, or you know, they have good balance on their bike and everything. But I mean, you cannot take sharp corners when you're steep. I guess I should say steep turn angles when you're riding in wet conditions. So that's kind of my take on the rain. So I'll ride in it if it's not pouring in. It doesn't cause me a big inconvenience. And then temperature wise, like I said, if it's above 32, I will ride. But again, if it's, you know, if it's like snowing or it's what was I saying? If it's snowing, then I won't ride even above 32. I would recommend that nobody, I know people do ride when the temperature is below 32, but I personally wouldn't recommend that, depending on the area you're in. I mean, if you know the street super well and you know it doesn't, like, you're taking a big risk if you ride at below 32 degrees, in my opinion. That's not really worth it. But I mean, everyone's going to make their own choices, but I would advise against it. I know I'm not really a credible source by any means, but I would pretty much, for the most part, advise against riding under 32 degrees. But again, it's not like it's impossible. And then it's like for wind, I didn't really talk about wind. I have rode in like 40 mile an hour winds, I think, so that's pretty high. I don't think wind is really a big deal on the motorcycle. I've talked about this before in like some videos. I don't think I've ever posted a video and talked about it, but like wind is really not that hard to maneuver on a motorcycle because it's such a small area. And you know, I think I don't want to go into detail, but like the physics of it, your bikes aren't nearly as bad as cars when it comes to wind, because it doesn't like high profile vehicles like that Penske truck that we were following a minute ago that have a lot of surface area on the side, or like this FedEx truck. Like those are the ones that become dangerous because more wind is hitting it, that can generate more power, more leverage when it's, you know, hitting it. Whereas with the motorcycle, it's really not that bad. Now, would I go out and ride in like a hurricane or like, you know, like 70 mile an hour winds? Probably not. If it's like wind that could knock me over when I'm walking outside, I'm not gonna ride in that. But most of the time, like super high winds like that are going to be so, like, the chances of you having to ride in a situation like that are pretty much negligible. I don't know why you would, I mean, have to ride at that point. But for me personally, I'm pretty comfortable riding in wind. You know, this is a pretty windy area. Iowa's pretty windy in general. And so it's not bad to handle, really. So rain, okay for the most part, as long as it's not inconvenient. Temperature, if it's above 32 and it's not snowing or anything, I'm pretty good with it. And then wind, for the most part, as long as it's not like dangerous level winds, I'd say above like 50 mile an hour winds, gusts, that'd probably be a little bit sketchy for me. But again, I don't think it's impossible to ride in that kind of condition. So I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Tell me how you guys decide when to ride, when not to ride. I think I do ride more than most people, or choose to ride more than most people, because a lot of the times in these motorcycle lots, I'm the only motorcycle. I guess there are mopeds, but they're kind of different. They, you know, if they got a moped, they're down bad. They gotta ride that. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it kind of made sense. I didn't ramble on too much about anything, and hope it had served its purpose, was a little bit educational and all that. So take it easy, enjoy yourselves.